Hi, I'm Rebecca Nicholson and I'm presenting our paper, The Realities of Evaluating Educational Technology in School Settings. This work was a collaborative effort with several co-authors, Venn-Wycherley, Ahmed Kharrufa, Susan Lechelt, Kate Howland, Anthony Trory, Abrar Almjally and Vidya Sarangapani. Interest in educational technology has grown over the last decade, with an increased focus on delivering high-quality educational technology that supports learning. In order to evaluate the success of these designed educational technologies, it's been important to evaluate them in the wild, trialling them in classrooms and real-world settings. These evaluations offer an opportunity to collect rich data on a range of foci, including collaboration, comprehension, and learning outcomes. The findings from these, however, are often messy, as opposed to clean data such as lab tests or pre- and post-tests. Until recently, it's been considered taboo to share these messy results, particularly where there have been challenges with data collection or where the results have not demonstrated success in educational technology deployment. As HCI researchers, all interested in the design and evaluation of educational technologies, we started discussing challenges, realising they are inherent in all evaluations undertaken in the classroom, but not often talked about. The paper takes a reflective approach to understanding the challenges faced by educational technology researchers when conducting evaluations in the wild. We all reflected on the challenges faced in our own research experiences, drawing on a range of specific case studies that had been published, but where we had not explicitly discussed the challenges of the evaluation. The vignettes were from 8 researchers and 8 in the wild research contexts. 7 of these were in the UK and 1 was in Saudi Arabia. The studies were both longitudinal and short engagements, with a range of interface modalities including physical computing, GUIs and tabletop interfaces. There were a spread of age ranges from 6 to 15 years old and a range of evaluation foci. Once we had the vignettes, we shared these, clustering common challenges that arose across them all. We then used these to develop a set of recommendations based on our reflections. Our paper had 3 aims. Firstly, to offer an overview of common practical challenges encountered when evaluating technologies in classroom contexts. Secondly, provide recommendations for overcoming these challenges. And finally, to encourage others to provide descriptions of messiness in research in their own classroom settings. In this video presentation, we will provide an overview of the vignette clusters and offer a discussion of a subset of vignettes with their associated recommendations. There were 4 clusters of vignettes. Firstly, planning for classroom research, which included challenges such as understanding school and teacher values, understanding timetable pressures and their implications, anticipating how schools select students to partake in a study. Secondly, considering the impact of researcher presence, and this included challenges such as understanding the complexity of the researcher's role, the influence of being an outsider, perceived power of the researcher, and the researcher gender effect. Thirdly, the realities of the school environment, and this included challenges such as disruption to planned session structure, disruptions during sessions, disrupted access to technology, and the impact of setup and time. Finally, recognising the impact of spaces, objects and devices, which included challenges such as novelty of recording equipment, seating types as a distraction, seating arrangements and observations, desk configuration and collaborative activity, and spaces for research. We will highlight 3 of the challenges, and for each I'll discuss briefly the vignette and the associated reflections. These are only some examples, but will allow an understanding of the overall paper. And the paper contains more detail about the rest of the vignettes and further recommendations. In planning for classroom research, we saw many common challenges that arose, primarily due to the complexities of schools as an organisation and the many stakeholders involved in that research. We found that teachers and senior leaders within schools often had their own perspectives on the purpose of research, and this led to often differing goals. This led then to misalignment on a range of issues, such as how students were selected to take part in the study, perceptions of how the technology would benefit the students, and teachers' awareness of factors that were important to control for. An example of this was a vignette from one author, Megan, who planned a study introducing problem-based learning with a physical computing toolkit in the classroom. The research goal was to investigate a typical classroom context with students of all abilities. However, it later emerged that the school staff had decided to choose classes that were based purely on student ability. This was because they felt higher ability students would be easier to work with for the researcher because of their good behaviour and engagement. We suggest that it is key to align expectations for the research from the outset. Discussions can include motivations of the researcher and motivations of the school. This can be student selection or other factors that are important to control for, and the place of the research within the wider school context, for example, their curricular alignment. This can also help ensure teachers and leadership are invested in the study and have the right expectations. And consequently, it can increase the school's adaptability and support for contingency planning. Linked to the complex environment that schools operate within, the realities of conducting research in this environment lead to many challenges. We found that we'd all had disruptions to planned research sessions, which included things such as sessions being cut short due to unexpected planning changes, for example last-minute school assemblies, or disrupted through fire alarms or other unforeseen issues. Access to expected technology, for example desktop computers, can also be disrupted through room booking issues, as many schools have limited computing clusters, which are often in high demand. I had a particular issue with limited access to digital technology when conducting a longitudinal study in a secondary performing arts class. The study was predicated on the use of digital technology and was planned to take place in the school's computing classroom. However, due to timetabling issues at the school, the class was frequently relegated to the school's music room with no computer access. I began bringing Chromebooks to the sessions to overcome this challenge, but ultimately this had an effect on the observations of the use of technology, as Chromebooks were not how students and teachers would typically access the technology being evaluated. We suggest that contingency planning is key. So in the cases of disruption of access to technology, ensuring an alternative is available. In other cases, for example, disruptions to session structure, a modular structure of research with a minimum pathway for success can be valuable. Some disruptions are obviously unavoidable, and in these cases we recommend reflecting on how disruptions may have influenced the findings. We also found that in many of our studies, physical research materials, as well as configurations of the classroom, can have a big impact on findings. This included things such as students having access to swivel chairs that were a novelty and meant they were distracted, the presence of audio recorders, and also seating arrangements, such as the configuration of tables and types of chairs, for example, high stools versus desk chairs. One author, Susan, worked with colleagues to run a study evaluating collaboration with a physical interface in 5 separate schools. While the focus was on trends in collaboration observed across schools, she quickly realised that the configuration of tables in a classroom had an effect on what actions and gestures would be visible to others around the child. For example, configurations where the children were able to face each other was found to support a larger range of gestures and interactions than those where children were sitting side by side. The findings were thus influenced by the confounding factor of seating arrangements. We suggest that it is important to be mindful of the effect other physical aspects in the classroom may have on the findings, beyond just the technology to be studied. Sometimes these effects only become apparent during the study. In these cases, it's important to adjust the study design flexibly, but it is also important to acknowledge and reflect on emergent issues within academic outputs. Following our reflections on vignettes, we created recommendations under 4 broad categories: planning for research in complex school environments, developing a strong school-researcher relationship, accounting for experimenter impact, and designing and reporting of educational technology evaluation research. We have a total of 11 recommendations in the paper. Recommendation 1, adopt a modular research design with a critical path. We suggest that researchers should identify a core critical path for data collection and design activities, and that these should be modular so they can be added to or removed from this critical path. We also suggest ensuring the availability of secondary research dates to account for potential disruptions to these critical path activities. Doing this supports successful and complete data collection. Recommendation 2, prepare for the physical classroom environment. We suggest that researchers should visit the room planned for use before conducting the research. Understanding the constraints and affordances of the physical space means better planning of practical issues, for example, where to plug in recording equipment. Recommendation 3, account for the novelty effects beyond the studied technology. We suggest that researchers should acknowledge the novelty of everything involved in the study, such as data collection equipment, furniture, setup, and researcher presence. We suggest giving students an opportunity to acclimatise to any novel instruments and ask questions about them. Doing this reduces disruptions to the study and the data collection and improves the quality of the collected data. Recommendation 4. Endeavour to establish strong relationships with the schools and teachers even before commencing the study. We suggest that researchers should arrange in-person or video meetings with teachers and relevant members from the school leadership to clarify each other's needs and ensure alignment of expectations. Doing this ensures teachers and leadership are invested in the study and have the right expectations, which consequently will increase the school's adaptability and support for contingency planning. Recommendation 5. Work to understand the development of scheduling and timetabling, as well as the school's strategy for working with students of different ability levels. For example, ask teachers about their timetables for the year and what they prioritise in different months. For example, when do exams happen? Asking about how students of different ability levels are allocated to classes and to groups. Doing this helps to support the researcher in choosing a time period in which to minimise potential distraction to their study, providing an opportunity for the researcher to understand the impact of their presence within the school environment, and ensuring the study is carried out with the targeted ability levels. Recommendation 6. Assure teachers and students that it is the technology that is being evaluated and that the research is seeking honest feedback and experiences. Let students know that they should not feel they have to perform differently than in their typical classroom. Doing this allows for more genuine data by alleviating modification of stakeholders' behaviour in order to portray a certain image to the researcher. Recommendation 7. Ensure bias in student selection is avoided. Communicate to the teachers that it is important that all students are included, not just the best students. Doing this will avoid bias of evaluation results, where cherry-picked top-performing students may perform differently to their mixed ability peers. Recommendation 8. Report the positionality of the experimenter along with the results of the study. Acknowledge the epistemological belief, gender, culture, background, and/or other relevant characteristics of the researcher. Doing this provides insights into the design and the interpretation of research. Recommendation 9. Specify what is meant by evaluation. Ensure a clear definition of what evaluation means in the context of the research and what the constructs are that are to be measured. Doing this aligns the reader's expectations with those of the authors in terms of what is evaluated and the research methods used. Recommendation 10. Share and report on the messy realities of classroom research. Report on disruptions in the session structure, disruptions caused by instruments and materials, and unexpected incidents that influence the data collection and analysis. Doing this supports situated knowledge, and the transition away from assuming classroom research should be as objective and neutral as lab studies. Recommendation 11. Embrace reflexivity in classroom research. Write down and report on your reflections directly after the study about what went well and what did not, as well as any observed potential confounding factors. Doing this will ensure the research is responsive to the unexpected aspect of the environment. We really encourage people to share the challenges of in the wild research. This review is only one set of experiences. We hope, though, that by sharing the unpublished realities of this sort of work, we will encourage others to share their unexpected outcomes. We hope this will lead to better designs that are embedded in practice in the long run. Thank you for watching our paper, The Realities of Evaluating Educational Technology in School Settings. We would encourage you to read the paper for further detailed reflections on our experiences.